Welcome to Sport Buff, Ahead of the Game, the podcast featuring industry leaders in sports broadcasting and sports technology. Our guest today is Stuart Holden, one of the most talented players of his generation. The former US men's national team midfielder is Fox Sports' lead game analyst for its soccer coverage. Stuart played in the English Premier League for Sunderland and Bolton, and although his playing career was plagued with injury, he has gone on to become one of the most recognised voices in US soccer. Welcome to the podcast, Stu. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I love hearing those introductions. I feel like it sets up the conversation nicely as I'm here in my basement studio that I built out during COVID in Los Angeles. And yeah, excited to dig in and talk about kind of my journey over the past couple of years.
Yeah, loving your backdrop, but we'll go into that in more detail in a minute. But let's kick off with some quickfire questions. Firstly, who's your favourite team?
So this is an interesting one. When we talked about this, my favorite team, I grew up a Man United fan, and I supported United all the way through my teenage years. And I remember watching them win the Champions League with my dad in the living room, running around in Houston, Texas. And then my first major injury in my career came against Man United from a bad tackle. And from that point, I thought, yeah, I don't know if I can support this team the same anymore. And I don't really support any team fanatically other than my alma mater university, Clemson University. So I would say that the teams I follow now are the teams I played for. So Bolton Wanderers and Houston Dynamo, I'll say.
Okay, next question. Who's your sporting hero?
My sporting hero, I would have to say, is David Beckham. I grew up a United fan, as I said. I watched and idolized Beckham as a kid, and then I had the opportunity to play against him at the end stages of his career when he was at the LA Galaxy. So I played against him with the Dynamo. One of my coolest moments was captaining the Dynamo to play against the Galaxy, and he was the captain of the Galaxy. So that photo is a framer, and he's a guy I really look up to. I looked up to as a player.
That's seriously cool. I love that. Okay, morning routines. What's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
So my morning routines have changed for over the past decade as I've evolved into a father of two young children, and my morning routine is dictated by them now. So I get up, whenever my son tells me I'm going to get up, I haven't set an alarm now in probably 3 years. I hit the coffee machine straight away, pour my espresso, and then just kick into dad mode for the next 2 hours and get the kids ready and get them out the door and get them to school. So once I finally get that moment of peace, I like to go through my emails and catch up on the news and read around the soccer world and just kind of take care of those little things. But my day doesn't really start until I've got the kids situated and that's done. And then I can finally focus on myself.
Kids dressed, out the door, then it's on to the world of soccer.
Indeed.
Best bit of advice you'd give for aspiring soccer commentators?
So my journey into broadcasting is very different, I think, than most people that want to get into sports broadcasting. The example I give is that former players often get into it because we like doing it, but also because we played the game. And so we have a natural kind of expertise around that. And I work with a guy, John Strong, that he grew up wanting to be a sports broadcaster ever since he was a little kid and went to journalism school and broadcast school. And I think that the piece of advice that I would give to aspiring broadcasters in general, and not necessarily athletes, but it's learning the fundamentals and being good at the fundamentals and treating it like a job, and that, watching yourself back and learning and not getting so caught up in what games you're doing, but how you're doing those games and learning those the skills that you need to be a high level broadcaster. And then also focusing on relationships and being around the people that you like working with. Because I've always felt that the best TV moments that I've been a part of have come with people that I love working with, that I have genuine relationships with, love working with the producers, and you create these great moments on television. That all of that comes from the hard work behind the scenes. So as much as you see the front facing stuff, and we all want to do that and work on the biggest shows, I learned pretty early on that in order to be at those shows and to be able to perform at the highest level, you have to work very hard off camera and do all the little things to build yourself up.
That's very true. Yeah, a lot of people see the end result, don't they? But they have no idea what goes into it and all that hard work behind the scenes. So that's really interesting. Let's go all the way back, if we can, to I mean, yeah, baby Stu. You were born in Scotland, but you were raised in the US. So how did you get into soccer?
Yeah, you're making me sound old. We're saying all the way back. I'm having to think. And
That was not intentional.
my long term memory, admittedly, is not great. And so I was born in Scotland, Aberdeen. I grew up as many British people do, and many people around the world of around wanting to be a footballer. My parents have school assignments from when I was 5 and 6 years old, and probably like 90% of my class, admittedly. But I said that I wanted to be a professional football player, and I was one of the lucky few that got to live out my dream. And there was a lot of hard work and a lot of things that went into that. But from a very young age, I was surrounded by the game. My dad played rugby and also soccer. My mom played soccer, and I'll flip flop between soccer and football because naturally I'm a chameleon and I have British and American roots now too. But yeah, I think I knew from an early age that I had some natural talent and skill set, and mostly it was just something I loved. I was the kid that collected stickers and shoot and match of the day I watched every single weekend. And I went to the football with my dad on a Saturday and watched Aberdeen at Pittodrie. And I was in the Aberdeen School of Excellence as a young kid. I went to every soccer camp. So I really did grow up around the game from a very early age, and it was part of my DNA. And when we moved to the United States at 10, my dad was in oil. I didn't really know what to expect because the United States, that was in 95. So the United States had just had the World Cup in 1994. The MLS was just starting to start. It was its first league year that it came in. I can't even remember watching MLS games as a kid. And I always used to try to watch the Premier League and whatever it was. And we'll get into this later, but sports broadcasting has changed so much, and the availability of football on television in the United States has changed so vastly that we can watch probably more games, Premier League games, than you can watch in the UK now. And so, yeah, my journey in football continued in the United States and youth national teams, and eventually worked my way up to a point where I went to university, Clemson University, and then at 19 years old, turned professional with my first club at Sunderland in England. And it was quite a ride after that point.
It certainly was. Yeah, you've had an incredible career. I guess from an international point of view, you made your full international debut in 2009 against Granada. So I guess if you look back over your playing days, whether that was at club level or representing the US national team, what's your greatest moment? What are some of the big highlights for you?
We talked a bit about my sports broadcasting career, and we will continue to. But my footballing career was an interesting one too, and I think about all the great moments that I've been able to have. But really, kind of one big day for me was when I was at Clemson University, and I'd always said I wanted to go professional early, but I was in a university system. I was 19 years old. Like most players in the UK are professional by 17, 18, and I didn't even know at that point if I was going to have that chance. And I always say that you never know, and I treat every moment, and John and I try to treat every game like it's the biggest game or it's a World Cup final, because I think you can only operate that way if you're trying to deliver the highest level of product. And I was that way as a player. So it was just a random spring throwaway game in the spring of 2004. We were playing the United States U17 national team, and most of the guys I think we'd played 2 games that day. But for some reason that game, I just felt really good. I had a great game. The US U17 coach called the 20s coach under 20 national team. I got brought the next day straight into a camp. The next week I made that team. We went to Korea. We played in a tournament. I scored a goal against Brazil. Then we went to the Milk Cup in Ireland. I scored a goal against Denmark. We played against Ireland and England. And then a week later, I was brought into a trial with Sunderland. And 2 weeks later, after that, I was professional. So like my 4-week span of going from a college freshman and going to parties and, doing geometry and geology and all these different subjects, all of a sudden I'm a professional footballer. And that was kind of the turning point for me to become pro. Now, I didn't end up playing at Sunderland. It didn't quite go my way. I had an incident outside a nightclub where I was punched in the face and was out for 3 months with an orbital fracture. And so I had to suffer through all of these moments of adversity and setbacks. And I think it's an important part of my story before we start to talk about all the great moments, because I did have all these things that I felt made me as a character, and my mentality, and the way that I got to the point of being able to get through a professional environment where I wasn't always playing and I didn't have all the great success to allow me then to have the platform to have, these great moments that I can talk about now, playing in a World Cup, something I dreamed of as a kid, and coming on against England and playing there, scoring a winning goal for the United States in the Gold Cup in the last minute, and blacking out after, because it was just this euphoria and this rush to have that. And then probably my greatest memory as a player was scoring for Bolton to win the derby against Blackburn in the dying seconds, down a man, and we were flying high in the league. I think fourth in the league at the time, and it's a goal that I continually get a tweet or a message from Bolton fans about to this day. Or if I'd walk around the streets of Bolton, like, that would be the goal people would talk to me about. And I have a really cool, a Bolton fan gave me this poster in my house that is a diagram of the goal and then a picture of the celebration after. And every day it's in my son's room, and every day I'm changing his diaper and doing all these things. And he's like, "Daddy, goal, Daddy, goal." I was like, "Yeah, your dad used to play soccer. He used to be good."
Just take me back to the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa. You touched on it, but does it get any bigger than a World Cup as a player?
No, and that was a little bittersweet. It was a very sweet moment for me, but I admittedly did not get enough opportunities that I would have liked in that tournament. And the reason being because my leg had been broken 8 weeks, I think, or 10 weeks before the World Cup. I was playing for the United States against Holland. Nigel de Jong had a tackle on me and I broke my fibula. And so at that moment in time, I was doubting whether I'd even have a chance to go to the World Cup and be a part of it. And when you get that injured that close before where you think you're almost a lock to go to a World Cup, and you don't know how often these opportunities are going to come. The World Cup's every 4 years. You have to be in form, fit, healthy, picked by the coach. And so there's so many differentiating factors, and this is a once in a lifetime type opportunity. So I made the decision to have my leg pinned because it would get me back quicker. I got back on the field for the last game of the season with Bolton. I got into the US camp. I wasn't 100%. I probably wasn't even 100% until midway through the tournament, where I got back to my fitness and my sharpness. So I feel very proud of the fact that I got to participate and play, and even just to be a part of the squad was an honor. But to step on that field, to have, I remember standing there when Bob Bradley called my name, and I was standing on the side, and the number went up with the board went up with my number, and I got to walk on that field, and it was in Johannesburg, I believe, or Rustenburg, I think that game was, against England, and also my history with the UK, and having grandparents that live in Wigan, and my dad was born in Hindley, just outside of Wigan, so they were English, I was Scottish, like all this mishmash of cultures and history for me. It was a very proud moment for me, and I know for my family, and I just think that that's the pinnacle of our sport. Having played in the Premier League and MLS and achieved all these great things, it is really just that tournament that resonates with casual sports fans, even here in the United States. People that don't like soccer, like when they find out you played in a World Cup, that's kind of the jaw drop moment where they say, wow, you played in a World Cup. Like, you are one of, I don't know the number, but a very few number of people in their life that get to have that honor. And it's one that I wear proudly.
Yeah, awesome. So let's fast forward to 2016. You hung up your boots. How much was your career really governed by your injuries? You talked a bit about it, and those sort of setbacks, and how did you overcome those setbacks?
Yeah, 2016 feels pretty generous. It was the day I officially announced my retirement when my daughter was born. But really, my last professional game was probably Gold Cup final 2013, and then I tried one more time to come back in 2014, and I tore my ACL again playing for Bolton. And I had, ever since 2011, the big injury against Man United, I was flying high in my career. we were 5th in the Premier League and about to beat, or we were drawing with Man United at their place. And I had this major injury and I was out with that one for a year. I came back again. Then there was a complication. Then I was out for another 8 months. I got back from that. I played for a year and then I had an ACL tear and then another ACL tear. So I had about 3 years of just injuries, rehab, highs and lows, probably a depressive state of, am I ever going to get back to that? But I'm naturally an optimist. I work hard. I believe that I can do it. I believe that I can do anything that I put my mind and my body to. I always used to say to people that were saying, you're never going to get back. You're going to do more harm to yourself. I was like, don't worry. There's going to be a surgery that'll fix this in the future. And whatever happens after, I know this is a unique moment in my life that I want to try to continue to do what I dream my whole life of doing. And I'm sitting here talking to you now. I had a knee replacement 3 months ago and I'm a sports broadcaster, but it just kind of fell in my lap. There was a producer that, a couple people that were really influential in getting me involved. One, I know, Jonty Whitehead, who's with Sport Buff, and another in Shaw Brown, who was a producer at the time for NBC. And after I tore my ACL in the Gold Cup in 2013, I had a text from him. I joke with him that it was about 5 minutes after. He likes to contradict that and say he at least waited a couple of hours. But he said, hey, if you're going to be stateside and you're going to be rehabbing, would you be interested in doing some television in your downtime? And that was kind of a moment where I figured, you know what? I've been at this for 4 or 5 years of trying to just get through injuries and get back to playing. And am I ever going to get back to that level? Do I need to start thinking about my future? Do I need to see if this is something I like doing? And all of those boxes checked and marked up to yes. And so I said, sure. So after my surgery and a couple months of rehab, I started doing some sports broadcasting. My first MLS game was a game on a Thursday night with John Strong, who we've done over 250 games now together. But it was Chicago against San Jose, a throwaway game on NBC. And I did the game. I loved it. I watched back and I cringe at the way I called that game. It's so embarrassing, the way I sounded, the stuff that I said. And it's all part of my journey, though. So I'm proud that I tried that. And it was instantly that light bulb moment where I thought, this is something I could do and like doing. And if people think that I'm good at it, and I think that I'm good at it, then it's something I want to do for a long time. And here we are now, 6 or 7 years later, and I'm still doing this and have no plans on stopping until somebody decides that I'm not good at it or they want somebody else on TV.
Never. No, you mentioned about the pairing with yourself and John Strong, calling over 250 soccer matches since 2014. Apparently that's more than any other English language television duo as well. So you're on your way to surpass that at the upcoming FIFA World Cup in Qatar. What is the sort of magical ingredient for you both? Like, why do you think you both are so successful together?
Yeah, well, John is a fantastic broadcaster, and he's as I said earlier, he grew up wanting to be a play-by-play sports commentator, and he's living out his dream, as same as the way that I lived out mine as a professional soccer player. And he's got a great voice. He works incredibly hard. He studies and is as knowledgeable as anybody, where he's reading off stuff or from his brain. He's not reading it. And I look to check if he's reading, because I'm thinking, how can you memorize and just absorb this type of knowledge? And that's just the way he is. He's very talented. He's very special in that respect. And I think what makes us great together, and great being, that's for other people to judge. I feel that we're very good together, and I feel like we're a great pairing. The reason being, I think what you try to achieve as a sports broadcaster, and something that we do as a pairing, is to be easy to listen to have that type of conversation that people would be trying to have on their couch when they're watching a game, and bring viewers in to make them feel that they're sitting next to you and enjoying that experience, but also that they're learning from you. So it's not just observations about what's going on, but can you inform the audience and educate them at the same time, and do it in a way that is easy on the ear, that is entertaining. I mean, we're in the business of entertainment, and I think people forget that sometimes when they first get in. I always say there's thousands and thousands of former athletes that want to do what we do and know just as much as we do. But how can you do it in a way that pairs the informative stuff and the educational stuff while also being entertaining and being funny when you need to, or being endearing, or, in many ways being vulnerable and, in moments of chaos and just letting the viewer know that you're trying to figure it out too. And then how can you add to that with your expertise and the things that you've done and the research that you've done and the layers of stats and all the things that you can add to tell this story. And I always think that that's what we're trying to do. Is it's like reading a book. You're setting the story up. You're letting the viewer come along with it. You're telling why things are happening. And at the end of the day, you're wrapping up this story with why something happened. And if it didn't happen the way you expected it to, why did that happen? So John and I, and I'm missing the most important part of all of this. In order to do that, you have to genuinely like each other and be good friends. And that's what we are. John is one of my good friends to this day. We share so many common things. We're the same age. We have young kids. We love the sport of soccer. We're nerds about the sport of soccer. And I treat it like a job. We both do. And that we love doing it. We feel thankful every day that we get to do this for a job, but we also work very hard at it behind the scenes to do the stuff that we do on camera. And so all of that packaged together, our bosses feel, and Jonty was my boss for a while too, that we, for whatever reason, are a good pairing, and that it's worked to this date. And I hope to continue to do it with John for a long time. And we're hoping to be the lead team once again at the upcoming World Cup.
When it works, as you've explained.
Yeah.
Over the years, you've been working in sports broadcasting for a number of years. Have you witnessed any challenges for networks in terms of fan engagement? It's something we know we're all talking about, and attracting that next generation. Your children, young people now watching soccer, that audience. What are some of those challenges?
Yeah, I've become, now that I've been in this industry for 7-8 years, I'm a TV nerd as well, admittedly, and, track new trends. And I love when we get new technology and new cameras that we try, and implementing stats and live stats. And fan engagement is what we continually strive to work on, and viewership. And look, the different properties have different challenges. The Premier League here is so incredibly popular. It's the number one English language sport and league in soccer. Not even close to the NFL. When you're talking about 30 million viewers every single week. But fan engagement has been something that we really work hard with, especially on MLS, because MLS TV ratings, I think everyone would admit, are not where they would hope they are at this point. There's highs and lows. There's big spikes, and big games do well. And then your run of the mill every week MLS game in the middle of summer, it doesn't draw the type of viewers that we want and we would like. And there's this continual pull and tug of MLS being a regional sport and fans loving their teams, but not necessarily being fans of the league and watching the big marquee matchups that we try to market. But they'll rather watch their own team play every week. And, they have that opportunity. Whereas in the UK, you can't watch the 3:00 game on a weekend. So everybody's watching the Uniteds versus whoever, or Chelsea and City and Liverpool, because those are the big games. We're still trying to create that in the United States. And I think one of the ways we're looking at it is fan engagement, like you're talking about. Can we find ways digitally on social, live integrations into broadcasts, and getting fans input and watching live tweets or popping those up on the screen, and not trying to take away from what is on the picture, which is the game itself, but adding to that with color, and not it being gimmicky, but genuine integration. And sports betting now is a big part of that too, the way that it's exploding in the United States. And that's, I think, an area that MLS is really looking to expand on and grow on, is the sports betting element, and trying to get fans engaged, because it is a way in which look, when the result and the outcome is tied to your pocket, you have a lot more investment and you're watching every single kick. And sports betting is massive in NFL and baseball and these other sports, but we've yet to kind of gain that momentum now in soccer. So we're always focused on that. We do a lot of focus groups with Fox, and we get a pitch at the beginning of every season on, here's what viewers have said that they'd liked, and it's a sample size type of survey. And we try to cater our broadcasts around that in the way that we storytell or build big stars and try to focus on some of these elements beyond just like, this is what we're going to do and this is what we've done for 10 years and we're not changing. I think you always have to be aware of the current environment and being able to and willing to adapt to that at the same time.
What are you excited to see in sports broadcasting in the future in terms of some of those impressive technology that's sort of coming into the space? Where do you see the future?
I see the future as being able to, in real time, integrate fan opinion, fan engagement. I think stats and data are going to be more and more ingrained into broadcasts, and being able to see, and we can effectively do this now, but it's trying to do it in the right way, where let's say two players are sprinting for a ball into the channel, a defender and an attacker, and being able to just pop that up on the screen at the end and say, well, you saw that this guy won, and actually the data matches up that his high speed intensity was 32 miles per hour or whatever it is, and this guy was 22 miles an hour, and this is why he beat him to the ball. I think the integration I've loved over the past couple of years, expected goals, and being able to put and tell a story to a viewer at home. Well, this guy just pulled off a great shot, and I'm telling you that it's really great as a former professional, and this is why. But being able to add to now the data of that, well, he had a 2% chance of scoring that based on historical data. And, we're doing some of these things now, and I see it on a week-to-week basis in La Liga and the Premier League. But I think what people and young viewers crave more than anything is that instantaneous feedback, and attention spans are way down. I mean, I even do it when I'm watching a casual game on TV now that I'm not that invested in. I'm listening to the commentators. I hear if their cadence is picking up, so I know maybe we're about to see an exciting moment. And so I'm kind of paying attention, but I start scrolling on my phone. I'm scrolling social media. I want to see what other people are saying and thinking about the game. I'm chiming in on conversations as well. So I think it's important as broadcasters now, how do you get the viewers into that conversation on the screen? And how do you keep them engaged into what you're doing? Because that's important to advertisers too. And advertisers are the ones that keep the lights on for us a lot of the times, and why we're, paying all this money for sports rights to be able to put that on the TV. So I actually would love if in the future that I can have a live scrolling conversation of people within a certain chat room or social media. And if I've said a comment, and I can now respond to certain viewers and say, well, I disagree with you. I know that you guys don't agree with me, but here's why, and expand on that, and maybe show video that supplements that within the game. And I think that's how you continue to grow the game. I think it's how you continue to keep people engaged. And I think it's how you can maybe differentiate yourself from other broadcasters, which is what we're ultimately trying to do, and put out the best possible product on TV.
You referenced La Liga in that, and you became an investor and advisor of Majorca, a Spanish club with a rich history of competing in La Liga. So why Majorca?
When we first bought the club in 2016, we were in Segunda. We went down to the third division. Then we went back-to-back promotions and got into La Liga. Then went down, then came back up, and currently we're in La Liga. Look, this was an opportunity that came to me through Steve Nash. He's a legendary basketball player, loves soccer, and him and I are very good friends. He's one of my best friends, and we share a mutual love for the game. The current owners of his former team, the Phoenix Suns, and in the NBA, they reached out to Steve and said they were interested in buying a soccer team. Steve reached out to me, said, hey, would you be interested in doing this with me? I said, sure. Who wouldn't want to be a part of an ownership group for a professional football team? And so I invested, I got involved in the group. I started just learning. My main reasons for doing it was A, I thought it would be a wonderful experience, but B, it's a part of the game I've always been fascinated in, and the business and the economics and the beyond the playing field type stuff. And then C, it's a beautiful island off the coast of Spain, and it's pretty cool when I can say to my family, hey, let's go check on our team and let's fly to the island of Majorca and stay on the beach for a week and go to practice and watch all these games. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I've learned so much. I live and die by every kick of the ball right now, especially when the stakes are so high and you're so tied and dependent on TV money to be able to do the stuff that you want to do and grow the club. And we ultimately want to maintain and sustain our La Liga status. And beyond that, there are just so many challenges of balancing a budget, an academy, and buying and selling players. And we just approved plans recently to renovate the stadium. And we've been really working on the match day experience and trying to make it a fun environment, family friendly, but at the same time, commercial sponsors. And we've created this pitch side VIP area where you can go and have a barbecue and eat pizza and drink and just enjoy La Liga in a different way than maybe any other team in the league. So I hope that we stay up this year. It's going to be very close, but if we don't, we continue to build and focus on our 3 to 5 year plan and all the things that we've done. And it's if you ever get the chance, I'm sure a lot of Brits will be listening to this, but and they go to Mallorca, and it's maybe not your first thing you think of, hey, let's go to a football match while we're partying and relaxing. But it's a really cool, unique, small club that has such a rich history and has won Copa del Rey's, and we hope to get back to those glory days very soon.
Listen, Stu, I'm sold.
I'll sort you out in the VIP area.
I've got a question on the women's game in the US and the growth of it. We've seen huge growth over the years. It's the FIFA Women's World Cup next year. The USA won the tournament in 2019. Talk to me about your thoughts on the growth of the US women's game.
The U.S. women's game has seen so much growth. And in fact, the women's game globally has seen a lot of growth. And I actually think it's given a bit of a wake-up call to us here in the United States with the way in which now the world is investing in the women's game, because I think people and smart people and people with a lot of money see that there's a lot of room for opportunity there. And the U.S. have forever been the gold standard of the game and the amount of World Cups and Olympics. And I think we'll continue to be near the top, but certainly you're getting a lot of pressure now from Germany, from England, from Spain, from Sweden, from, France have a great team as well. And it's the wake-up call, I think, comes because now you're seeing some big clubs like Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Barcelona. Barcelona just smashed the women's record for the most fans at a game. And if you're an American women's soccer player right now and you're playing in the NWSL, which I went to the Angel City first ever game, 22,000 fans, wonderful, big celebrity owners. That's a great moment. But you're also, if you're an NWSL player, there's still games that are getting 3,000-5,000. If you're looking at Barcelona and you're a big top player, you're thinking, maybe I want to go do that and play every single week in front of 90,000 fans and have these great experiences that they haven't necessarily had in the past. And that's going to be the interesting part for the US and the growth of NWSL here, which is seeing tremendous viewership on TV. They're getting a lot of investment, a lot of excitement. And I think smart people here are recognizing that MLS over the past decade, 15 years has had exponential growth themselves, but at the same time is reaching a point where the game now is starting to figure out, okay, when's that next point of verticality going to come from? And to get into MLS now, you have to pay more than 350 to 400 million. And that's not even including a stadium. NWSL teams are trading in the 10 to 15, 20 type range. So I think people are thinking, okay, we see a lot of growth for opportunity. The women's game, the women's players are so incredibly popular. They have loyal followings. It's doing well on TV. If we can invest into that and continue to grow that, I think women's sports in general are seeing a lot of growth right now in the US. And it's a smart place to be, I think, if you want to see a lot of return on your investment. It's going to be still a slower burn, but I think in 20 years, you'll be looking back and saying, this was a great point to get into the women's game. And these women's athletes they do so much beyond the game too, off the field, very powerful brands and very passionate about social and just life stuff that is very important. So I'm a believer. I have a young daughter who's 6 that wants to be a soccer player. And I hope when she's a professional, maybe in 15, 20 years, that she's playing in front of, thousands and thousands of people and making all the money that she can make.
Oh, I look forward to seeing her playing in the NWSL, in the future, or wherever. Like you've said, it's a big draw to play wherever, Europe, the WSL. So to wrap, let's talk about the upcoming FIFA World Cup in Qatar. What are your predictions? How excited are you for it?
We're talking a lot about sports TV. If England play the US on Black Friday here in America, the day after Thanksgiving. And that has potential to be the highest watched soccer game in the history of American television, because people are off work. Everybody's at home. The World Cup here is the time when even the casual sports fan wants to tune in, and there's a nationalistic type pride associated with the World Cup. And that game is going to be epic proportions. And I just think, look, I've been to Qatar now twice. I went for a trip with Alexi Lawless. We went to film some features. We got to do some really cool stuff and dune buggies and camel races and absorb the local culture and learn about just Qatar and the Middle East in general. And it was really fascinating to meet people there that were so excited, and also very westernized culture and American universities in Qatar. And I just think if you're a fan of football and you want to see one World Cup in your lifetime and you want to watch as many matches as possible, this would be the World Cup to do it, because essentially a city the size of Miami and Qatar, you're going to have every single game driving distance of that. And you could see 3, maybe 4 games in a day if you're crazy. And I just think that I'm excited for it as a broadcaster. We're going to be able to be in one hotel the entire time. I traveled the entire country of Russia throughout the World Cup of 2018, and I was flying here, there, everywhere, 4-hour flights, 3-hour flights. It was a lot. I'm excited to be just situated, do big games, do studio. And I just think that you're going to get this really interesting mix of cultures and countries in one fan zone. I sound like a total hype man right now for the World Cup, but I get excited thinking about it. I just think that, like, if you're going to go to one and enjoy it as a fan and just be a football junkie, go do this World Cup. I think it's going to be great.
Well, I like the hype, the excitement. I'm feeling it, Stu. I'm feeling it. Oh, it's been fantastic to speak to you.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate you guys having interest to talk to me. I'm sure we probably dragged on way too late, but I love what I do. I get to do this every single day now, and I get to cover football for a living, and I feel fortunate for that. And I love to sit there and reminisce about my story. I don't do it often, and as soon as we hang up from here, I'll be back into parenting mode and changing dirty diapers and running around like a madman. But I appreciate it, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Great. I'm glad to have been able to enable you to have given that time to stop, reflect, and look forward. So thanks, Stu.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed that episode featuring Stu Holden. Join us again next time.